Hello everyone, welcome to What's Missing. As you can see, my hair and facial hair has changed a lot in the last month and a half, 2 months? Whenever that first video came out. But I'm back, baby, and I'm here to talk about a new topic. Today we're going to be focused on a video published by Freedom Project Media, one of their programs. Boy cat, boy cat, boy cat, boy cat. You just come barging in expecting pets. I'm trying to do a thing. I'm trying to do a YouTube thing. Alright, let me pick you up. I know you're not gonna be. Oh man, you're so fat. Oh, you're so fat. Look how fat he is. He's so fat. He's giant. Giant cat. Yeah, he's all muscle, believe it or not. Okay, and as you can see, yeah, I look like shit. Are you surprised? I'm not. Anyways, we're going to be talking about a video published by Freedom Project Media under one of their subsidiary programs called The Dr. Duke Show. Back in April 2019, Duke, Pesta, and writer Alex Newman shared the story of a potential scandal surrounding the California school district Brea Olinda. They claimed that Assistant Superintendent Carrie Torres was allowing instructors to teach children that pederasty was just another acceptable form of sexual orientation. Supposedly, Torres and the school district were doing this by sharing the history of pedophilia in a class setting. By publishing this story, Pesta and Newman hoped to portray themselves as our heroes, revealing a terrible truth hidden by the left-wing media in the hopes of protecting your children. If we dig a little deeper, though, we find the true intentions behind this piece, made evident to us when Pesta and Newman followed this one-question interview of Torres with a tangent about how the left wing not only wants to teach your children to let adults touch them, surprise motherfucker, but they also want transsexuals and homosexuals to victimize your children as well. Now, homosexuality and transgenderism are not at all related to pedophilia, but to the large religious body within the good old US of A, trans and gay citizens are still largely considered degenerates, committing about as much sin as a pedophile. To them, degeneracy, that is, whatever they decide to be degenerate, can only damage the moral fabric of this country and shouldn't be allowed to exist in the first place. To them, the Equality Act does not reflect a justified and reasonable extension of LGBTQ plus rights. In their eyes, it's more an example of the government failing to protect the American people from the supposed corrupting effects of homosexuality and transgenderism. This religious audience believes that not only are homosexuals degenerate, but so are those nasty leftist Californians, who in this program are characterized as the arbiters of some terrible evil, infecting the minds of children, a thing that surely only Satan could have come up with. Unfortunately for the Dr. Duke Show, though, this is far from the truth. Nothing could be more wrong about the assumptions and ill intent imbued in this short 3-minute clip. So, let's have a look, shall we?
You have written, we have discussed some seriously crazy stories out of the public school. This one might be the worst yet. We have a school administrator in California actually arguing that we need to, and they are, even as we speak, teaching pedophilia to children as just another option for sexual orientation. Give us the story.
You know, this concerned mother asked the assistant superintendent of curricula in the Brea Olinda School District in California why they were teaching children pedophilia and normalizing anal sex. And you would expect the administrator, the assistant superintendent, to say, oh my goodness, that's horrible. Where did you get such an idea? We would never do something like that. But instead, what she says is, well, you know, this is a sexual orientation that has occurred, and so it's, quote, really important to teach the children about this. And they are.
Answer me why you're teaching pedophilia in school to ninth graders.
Teaching what?
Pedophilia, pederasty, right here.
I've explained to you that this is done because we are talking about historical perspectives of how gender relations and different types of sexual orientations have existed in history.
This is not about something occurred and therefore we have to teach it. I mean, if that was the case, we'd be teaching all kinds of things. What it is about is normalizing every type of perversion. And I want people to realize here the implications of this. This is more than just confusing and perverting and sexualizing the children. Under California law, and this is the case in about half of the states now, and they're working on it at the federal law with the Equality Act, discrimination based on sexual orientation is illegal. So if pedophilia is a sexual orientation, do public schools now need to hire pedophiles so that we don't discriminate on their sexual orientation? Do churches need to hire pedophiles so that they don't discriminate based on sexual orientation to run their children's ministries?
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. One of the things that I'm confused about, and you can let me know in the comments if you have further information on this, is Newman's point that if we consider pedophilia a sexual orientation, then under the Equality Act, these child abusers would not be able to get kicked out of their jobs or refused a position because of that orientation, right? Now, the problem with this train of thought, though, is pedophilia is not covered in the Equality Act. It may be a form of sexual orientation, but the Equality Act specifies clearly which sexual orientations it concerns: homosexuality, bisexuality, transgenderism. Whether or not pedophilia is labeled a sexual orientation, it doesn't automatically mean that they'd be protected by the Equality Act. And it certainly does not mean that the LGBTQ plus community would even want these persons included in the Equality Act. To me, it just seems like Newman is deflecting, because the very reason Torres gives for why the history of pedophilia is being taught, to educate students on the subject, is the very reason he chooses to deny, saying that if it was being taught to educate children on the subject, we'd be teaching all kinds of things. Well, don't most schools teach children about Hitler and World War II so these students can understand how dangerous and evil this historical figure was? And why we consider him evil and dangerous? Why is it so hard for Newman to accept that a subject matter like pedophilia can be taught in a classroom without the instructors condoning or encouraging the act? There is no evidence, that I could find anyway, to even suggest that Torres or the school district have represented the history of pedophilia in a positive light. And yet Newman is putting words in her mouth. As members of the audience, we should be asking ourselves, why? Why is he twisting her words without evidence, without testimony from a witness, without even an implication that something is wrong here, besides those implications made by the program, of course? I think Newman puts this message out there, that the left is corrupting your children, just to satisfy those people who are willing to believe in this ridiculous message. Because he and Duke Pesta know that the average person isn't going to take the time to check if he's telling the truth. They're going to watch this program, nod their heads in agreement, and move on. Anyways, let's keep going.
We've seen it, haven't we, Alex? That at American public